You don't know what the salary cap is, and you don't care. That's a great way to start a talk show, isn't it? But let me use the salary cap in the NFL to point out something. And, I mean, I think it's going to make perfect sense when I explain this. I don't think people think of it in these terms very often. I think you should. But the greed, I said greed, is holding back the NFL product. I know that's hard to believe given that it's more popular than ever. It's making more money than ever. It's just the biggest and best content provider that we know of today. So it's hard to believe the NFL product would be slipping at all. I don't know that I would say it's slipping because I don't think you really care that much as long as the quarterbacks are good and the receivers are good. That's fine. But points are down. Scoring is down. And it is a concern for NFL owners because they care about the product. They really do. But greed is making it worse. And I can use the salary cap to point out how greed is making this worse. What you watch every Thursday, Sunday, and Monday would be better, I'm arguing, if the players and the owners, mainly in this case, the players, weren't so greedy. But both. The football business has never been better. The NFL model is that money spent on player salaries, is dependent upon revenue generated. Okay, it's the very thing that college football should have done some time ago. If it was smart now, it would be doing it now, but it's not smart. So it's on a collision course for disaster. But the NFL has always, because I was in the NFL for 1.5 strikes. So it's always had this model where designated money coming in, I believe it is still 66% goes to player salaries and benefits. So obviously the more money coming in, the greater the salaries. So, and it's never been bigger and better. So the more money generated from TV and platforms, the more money the players make. Like I said, I think it's around 66%. So what's reported today, and then I'm going to point out to you why I think this is really greedy and I think it's a problem. And it's almost to the point every time you hear about player safety and player health, don't listen to an owner. They don't care. But it's hard to even listen to players now when I make my argument that says, gosh, apparently you guys don't care. The NFL, here's the headline from Yahoo Sports. NFL salary cap will rise to $255.4 million for the 2024 season. The NFL salary cap is now a $30 million per team increase in 2024. Okay? It was, $224 million last year. So the NFL is going to bring in $110 billion over the next 11 years on television deals that were struck in 2021. I don't think that even counts the Amazon deal, which is skyrocketing as we speak. So you're talking about a $120 billion business over the next 10 years, and it's not that big of a business. The salary cap in 2011 was $120.3 million. In 2024, the salary, that is the amount of money on paper that each team can spend towards salaries for that particular season. Now, can they go under? Sure. Can they go over? Not really, no. This is all done on paper. So it's gone from $120 million in 2011 to almost $260 million next year per team. They also have an additional $74 million per team that goes to player benefits. This is where they throw in incentive clauses and they pay off that lawsuit over concussions and stuff like that. So, okay, Ward, whatever. It's just a bunch of economics. Yes, it's a pretty good system. It's set up pretty well. Here's my argument that the product is suffering and the players themselves are suffering. And every time anyone wants to say an owner is greedy, I just want to make sure you point out players are greedy. And think this through. The roster is currently at 53. To put that in perspective, when you watch a college game, a major college game, a football factory game, you're going to, well, first of all, there's 150 people on the sidelines. It's grotesque. Anybody and everybody is on the sideline. It's stupid. But You have 85 players on scholarship. They're playing 12 games. The NFL has 53. That's an active 53. That's 53 people can go into a game. Now, 2 of them are not going in at all. And those are backup quarterbacks unless there's a disaster. So you're really talking about playing with about 47 to 48 people. And I know you're going to think that sounds like a lot. They play potentially 21 games. Think about that. 21 games with 48 people playing. And it's week in and week out, and it's brutal. Every single play in an NFL game is like 11 car wrecks. The game would be better if the rosters were bigger. There. Well, how do you know that, Jeff? What do you mean? Because you would have, I'm thinking 58 to 60 players should be on a roster. I thought this when there was a strike. I'm sitting in a meeting listening to guys complain about stuff, and I'm thinking, well, everyone's complaining about injuries. There's only 48 of us. And this is before it was potentially a 21-game season. It would be better because the players would be fresher each week. Particularly the players, star players, would be fresher each week. When guys do get hurt, if you had a bigger roster, and they all are going to get hurt. I mean, it's just a way of life. But what most people don't know, see, I mean, when people see football games, you might know 2 or 3 stars on an offense. That's it. You don't realize there's 8 other interchangeable parts. And a lot of those guys, careers are lasting 3-4 years tops. A lot of those guys are bouncing and switching positions all the time because they're only 2 deep at any particular position. College programs that go 4 deep at any particular position, and they have 12 games. And it's not as competitive as the NFL, where every week it's a beatdown. So players would be fresher, slightly fresher, but any amount is good. That would produce better games. That would produce fewer injuries. And then the thing that people don't realize, and I know players think about this, is that you would have players not having to train and playing as many multiple positions. The starters could rest more. Your guard could be a guard. Your guard wouldn't have to be 3 other positions. Your tight end wouldn't have to be 3 other positions. You can go down the list. These guys are having to play in any game. It'll happen throughout the year. They're having to play multiple positions, and they're not playing it as well. It's not their best position. Now, the fans don't care because you just want to see the ball thrown and caught. But the product is worse, and it's more dangerous. And you would think that the players, it's amazing to me, even sitting through a strike and listening to people complain about some legitimate things, but you would think the players would want it. You would think that if you just look around, you're beaten down in a potentially a 21-game season, that you would want to be able to take a break. You would not want to have to train at multiple positions. You wouldn't have to go be thrown in to be a cornerback when your natural position is something else. Next time you hear an owner talk about health, ask the players why they don't want a bigger roster. They want more money. They want to keep the money. Now, you could say, I mean, if the players cared so much about their safety, about being fresh, about getting some rest, they'd be pushing for bigger rosters. I'm not talking about second and third string quarterbacks who you hope never play. That means everybody else has to play a lot. And they need more players. And they won't do it. And they won't do it because that $256 million this year, that's more for them. Now, you could say, well, I would do the same thing, Jeff. Okay, well, by week 16 or 17, when you can barely get out of bed and make it to, you don't really practice anymore. The way they practice late in the season is they play a game, spend a week trying to recover just enough to be able to play another game. You're not really practicing and training during the week. You're just trying to recover and survive to get to the next one. That's what the season is like. Living like that, knowing that you're half the player you were by week 16 that you were in week 2 or 3, you would think you would want a bigger roster. They don't, because this is more money. That's my accusation. They are just as greedy as the owners and just as greedy to the point of putting their own health at risk. And I think the product is worse because of it. The game, if they had 60 players, I think you could notice the game would be better. I think you would notice. They would certainly notice. But they won't do it. But business is good. It's a $150 billion media business. And they're apparently not about to give up a single dollar just to add another person to the roster.